Well, now I want to turn it over to Chris Course for our My Build. And we're trying to do an awful lot of My Build in these segments each month. So we hope that you'll help us and want to participate in these and send your photos and so forth into Chris so that he can include it in each month's segment. Before Chris starts this month's segment, I do want to run the video of our sponsor, which is Dan and Amy Dowdy's company, uh, for both of their magazines, S Scale Resource and O Scale Resource.
Welcome to the world of scale, O and S railroading. We are your resource for all O and S scale modeling. Both our magazines are advertiser supported and free to read online, download as a PDF, or even print. All advertisers are hot linked to their website, so if you see something you like, just click. Please check out our websites for the current issues. All back issues available free for the O Scale Resource and the S Scale Resource magazines. And, if you are a manufacturer, distributor, or retail establishment, please contact us through our website for advertising opportunities.
All right, there we go. All right, tonight's My Build featuring you for January 17th, 2024. We will get started here. I'm your host, Chris Course. First up, we've got Martin. You up, Martin?
I guess so. I must be. That looks like my name on the slide.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what I sent you this time.
Looks like you've got 12 slides here.
12 slides. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is the tank car. Okay, so this is an IMP tank car, brass car that I redetailed, rebuilt, added a brake system to. And I say that because this is the car I used to put a K-brake system into back in July, when I did the 4 shows on brake systems and such. So this is the car that I don't think you ever saw the top side of the car. So this is what the car looks like. Go to the next one, please. Okay, you may or may not have seen this one. This is a KWR Imports brass car that I got. I got it in the raw brass and in a lot of broken solder joints, a lot of other broken things, and completely restored, rebuilt, redetailed, added the brake system to, updated a lot of detail parts. Was daring enough to paint it white, and it actually came off half decently, and used a set of very old Walthers decals that actually worked, much to my amazement. I didn't even have to top coat them in any way. KWR, however, I want to point out, this car is marked made in occupied Japan. So this car is 1952 to 1948 in its age. So this car is older than most of us. And I think it still isn't too terribly crude for despite its age. Can't say that much about the rest of us, but the car is pretty good. Next slide. Oh yeah, this is the Railcraft gondola. This was the one I used for back in June, July for installing the AB brake system underneath of it. This is a tin-plated steel and brass car that needed a bit of a rebuild, resolder, redetail, add all the missing parts, and of course the entire underbody brake system. And I put in a board-by-board decking on the interior as well, because there are a couple extra holes in the floor that I'm not quite sure why they were there, but it looks a lot better with some wood in there as opposed to holes in a metal floor. Decals were from K4 decals. Actually, really nice decals. They went on very nicely. Next, please. Oh, there's the interior. So, yeah, just lots of, I don't remember what size thickness wood it was, but stained, and then just, I have 4 or 5, maybe 6 now, bottles of polyscale paint that before I throw them entirely away, I squirt in a couple of drops or milliliters or what have you of water, swirl them around, and then I paint using Q-tips. So that's all done with Q-tips and stain and miscellaneous paints, leftovers. So even the scrap paint gets used. Next slide, please. Oh, there's the underbody of that car. So if you don't remember it from June or July, there it is again. All soldered together and whatever adhesives I used mixed together to get that all together. I think the brake hangers were soldered into place. The rest were all glued with goo and CA. Alrighty, let's keep going. Oh gosh, it's another one of the brake underbody cars. So this is actually a resin car. I can't remember which one it is. It's either the Desplaines Hobbies or it's the Ultra Scale car. That's the Desplaines Hobbies car. Went together actually fairly nicely for a resin car. No real difficulties. I think though parts of it were missing, and I managed to make it work nonetheless. Just added all the details, extra stuff, and the full underbody. So there might be another slide of the underbody. I don't know. I don't remember. Nope, it's just the other side of the car.
Yeah, that one looks like the opposite side, maybe.
Yeah, that looks like the opposite side, which, yeah, because the brake wheel's at the other end of the car now. So there you go. There's the underbody. So yeah, so that was basically improvised and added in. Yeah, I remember doing this one because it was the drill the holes through the center sill, run the wires and all the brake levers and all the stuff through holes that you had to drill. So it makes it a little more challenging, but not impossible. It's just a lot of advanced planning has to go into installing the parts, making everything come together, and sliding pieces together through holes. Holding one thing with holding one end with a pair of tweezers, the other end with a forceps, and applying glue with the third hand. That tends to be the way that gets put together. There's the other one. That's the one that was missing the parts, like the entire underbody, which actually is kind of liberating. Another resin car. So it was missing all the parts, most of the instructions, and some other odds and ends, but made it come out okay. I think it's acceptable, I think is where it comes out at. Just go to the next slide. Yeah, I like actually building resin cars generally. Preferably though, a kit that's complete makes it a lot more fun, a lot more interesting, a lot less challenging. But if it's incomplete, well then it's also freeing and liberating. You can do whatever you want, make it happen. I think this one was missing the ends. So those ends are actually brass stamped ends from an All Nation gondola that I just replaced the ends. And as a result, they're really, really thin. So the rest of the resin's not that thick, but the ends are really, it's a sheet metal. It's very thin. So it looks good. It's hard to do that in resin or plastic, get it as thin as a stamped piece of brass. And there's the underbody for that one. So that was a lot easier because it's above the center sill. But that was the split K-brake system. Okay, next, and there's the interior. And yeah, it was actually a drop bottom car, but since it was missing all the parts for making that system, I left it out and just decided, oh, it's just a drop bottom car that they nailed they sealed the bottom, left the hatches in place. We'll forget about it and keep moving. So that's it. We're good.
Yep.
Super.
All righty. Awesome as usual. Thanks, Martin. Are there any questions for Martin? All right. Well, thank you, Martin. And I look forward to seeing what you can come up with for oddities for next month.
Oh, I wouldn't have anything odd.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have Kirk Butcher. You up, Kirk?
Yeah, am I on?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right. Looks like you've got 3 slides. Oop, what did it do? Hang on. Sorry. I'll get this fixed real quick here.
Okay. This is
All
a structure I started to build for the South Oakland Model Railroad Club. It's currently on the layout. And when I was given this project, I wasn't sure exactly how to go about doing this, because it's a lot easier putting buildings together when all the parts are square. We got round objects on here, and I didn't have any plans for this structure. There wasn't any pictures. Nobody had any information. I was trying to build a cement silo industry for Pleasant Ridge, for the Pleasant Ridge, Michigan siding here, and it's a prototypical layout, and we're modeling from Durand to Detroit. It's 2 levels, and I was given this project, I believe, because nobody else wanted it. So the way I went about it was I didn't have any information on and I couldn't really find a lot of information on this particular industry or industries, all the industries that are related to it. But we did have somebody took a kit. First of all, I was going to try to build a kit, but I didn't have enough room to do that. So I decided to scratch build something, and hopefully I'd have enough room. And so what I did was I took some measurements from the Walthers kit that was already put together on the layout, on another part of the layout. And I swiped a few measurements, and I was able to come up with this. And the materials I used, the first thing I wanted to do was find some silos or some kind of material to use for the silos, and I chose some 2-inch PVC pipe. And one of the things I had to do was shave one side of it and cut them in 9-inch height, cut them 9-inch tall, and find a way to glue them together, because I didn't want to just butt the 2 together. I wanted to shave a side on it, and that was a little tricky. I had a table saw. I flipped the blade around backwards and laid it between the rip fence and the table saw. And this was really tricky, because the thing, it likes to bounce up and down, and it likes to turn at the same time. So you got to go with it really slow through the table saw. And I was able to shave it without gouging it too much. And then the rest was just evergreen products, trying to build the structures up top. And the ductwork that goes from one end to the other is a piece of wood. I found a piece of wood that was just the right size. And then the piping on the top is just a sprue I found. It seemed to fit it pretty close. So I had some success doing this. I thought it turned out okay. There was only I didn't get a lot of compliments from any of the club members, but I think it was because nobody had any interest in helping me build the project, the projects. So, but there was at the time, there wasn't a lot of modelers in the club at that time, and they were all working on other projects. But I kind of like it. I enjoyed doing it. I had a lot of fun building this, and I learned a little bit from doing it as well. So if anybody has any kind of questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
They've got actually a couple more slides on here if we want to go through those. There's a look at the top.
Yeah.
And then I think Yep, there's a few more.
That's the left side. Yep.
Yep. Is this HO scale?
Yes, this layout is HO scale. It's
Great.
it's the South Oakland Model Railroad Club, and they're located in Hazel Park, Michigan. But if you want to go online, you can view a good portion, or probably pretty much all the layout. It's a pretty big layout. It's about 900 feet of main line. It's a 2,100 square foot building. And it's 2 levels. They have 2 helixes on the layout, and upper and lower, or one on each end. And there's an upper and lower layout or levels. And it's a prototypical layout, so you won't see anything on the layout other than maybe Grand Trunk, Western rolling stock and locomotives, and there's some Canadian National and maybe a few other local stuff on the layout, but mostly it's Grand Trunk Western, which is they're modeling the 1970s. So if anybody wants to view it online, you know, they can look it up and view it. But like, this is just one small industry. There's lots of them on the layout to view. This particular one I scratch built. It's the only one I scratch built. I did have my hand in a lot of other projects on the layout, but I was more of you know, like a backdrop here or track work there, and I built a few kits for the layout. But like this particular one, I wanted you guys to view it because it's the only one I scratch built.
Yeah, it came out fantastic. I would not have thought that it was scratch built.
I wouldn't have either. I think it looks great.
Yeah.
I did use a lot of paint on the silos. For some reason, the PVC pipe, maybe I should have sanded it first or something, because it didn't, you put 1-2 coats on, it's never enough. I ended up putting 3 coats of paint on it just to get it to look good. And so, I mean, you know, maybe next time I'll try priming it first. I don't know. But it was fun. I had a lot of fun with it.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Kirk. Are there any questions for Kirk before we move on? All righty. Well, thank you very much, Kirk. And let's see. Next up, we've got Greg Cassidy. You up, Greg?
Okay, yes, I am unmuted.
All right, there we go. All right, looks like you've got 6 slides tonight.
Okay, and I think I've figured out your pattern. You go alphabetical, don't you?
Yes, indeed. By last name. That's why Martin's always first.
This project was a real quick one. I'm working towards an AP, and I needed to scratch build a couple more structures. And so I decided to do one. It was actually based on something that I saw on this show. And I said, okay, I can only use 10% manufactured parts. So I got 3 windows and a door from Tichy. And I said, everything else I'm going to build. So there's my 3 windows, a door out of that pack, and everything else is wood or paper or something. So that's where I started. Next slide. And the first thing I built were the front doors. And I just took some scribe siding, cut it at an angle, and then built a frame around it. And that made my doors. And in the lower picture, you can see the outline that I was tracing on my board and batten siding. And if it looks familiar, a couple months ago, Martin scratch built a structure on here that had 2 angles for the roof. And I said, that looks really neat. And so I decided to model mine on that. And he didn't copyright it, so it's his loss. So I cut out my siding from the board and batten and started piecing it together. Next slide. And this is how it came out. There wasn't much else to it. I cut the holes for the windows and the door. And as I was building it, I was trying to think what it was going to be. Well, I said it looked kind of like a a little freight yard type shed. And two of the windows I was using were already painted green from something else I was going to use them on. So I started looking for railroads that had green trim on their buildings, and Maine Central fit the bill. So I made a couple of Maine Central signs and some other signs to put on it. Next slide. So this shows it from this side. I don't know what they would actually store in here, but I did put a couple of vent windows on the upper part, so it could be something that needed venting. But it was real easy to put together. Most of it was in the staining and the weathering and the painting of the doors and windows and stuff. Next slide. And this looks at it from the back. The windows up top, I built the window frames and I left one of the windows open on the top so that it looked like they were mostly for vent. And obviously this is just a shed. There's no plumbing inside this building because there's no plumbing stack vent. And if you don't have a plumbing stack vent on your building, you don't have any plumbing in your buildings. Keep that in mind. Next slide. And this is it from the last angle. Now, I don't have any place on my layout to put this, so it's just on a shelf, but the next clinic or show or wherever we have AP judging, I'll take this with me and I'll get another scratch built building judged, and that'll be one more notch that I have checked off. So that's it.
Yeah, very
Thank
simple,
you,
but it
Chris.
came out very nice.
Yeah, it was quick, it was fun. And you know, I moved on to the next one. Oh, for the smokestack there, I had just taken some plastic tubing, cut it at a 45-degree angle and glued it back together. And then I took an HO scale wheel, one of those plastic wheels, took it off, sanded the back of it flat, stuck it on the wall, stuck the tube in it, and the top is just a little piece of channel. So all counts as scratch built.
Yeah.
That thing it comes through, I looked that up. They're actually called a thimble when the piping like that comes through a wall.
You enjoying the achievement program, Greg?
I'm doing stuff I hadn't done before, so yes, I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Are there any questions for Greg before we move on?
Well done, Greg.
Yeah, looks
Thanks,
very
Pat.
nice. I really like the signs, and they're simple yet they really add a lot to it.
And a couple of them are authentic Maine Central signs, stolen off of the internet.
Alrighty. Any questions for Greg? Alrighty. Well, thanks, Greg. We look forward to seeing what you can come up with for next month, hopefully. All right. Next up, we have Phil Edholm. Yep, Phil.
If I can get myself unmuted, yes, you're ready to go.
Okay. All right. Looks like you got 6 slides tonight.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
So this actually is an engine house. It's an IHC plastic. This is an O scale. The thing is pretty huge. I guess it's about 32, 34 inches long, something like that, almost 3 feet long. Basically, this is an area on the layout that was set up originally as a trailer modular loading area and had a crane on it, and it was very hard to reach, and you really couldn't do much with it. And we needed a place to put engines because there was a a turntable that took up far too much room and had been taken out years before. So what we did, if you notice back at the back there, if you look back behind the engine house, you see a little bit of pink foam. We cut a hole there, got rid of an earlier lift up hole to make the scenery look a lot better. To the city to the left, you'll see. And what we wanted to do is have a place where you kind of justify that these 2 tracks would now be engine yard tracks. So this was a build of an IHC engine house that shows up. It's designed for O gauge which is really 3-rail. So it has a foundation that's kind of designed to go with 3-rail track. So one of the things we wanted to do is have a more stone foundation. So you kind of notice the foundation there, that's chooch rock stonework cut and put on the bottom with some acrylic, which is really kind of the big thing to building this. You just jump to the next one. So this is on the upper left. That's kind of the view. If you look, we've got this new city we built out, and there was a tree just sitting there. Unfortunately, I didn't pick it up and move it, but you can kind of see where this sits. So you kind of see the end of it. What you see on the right is the other end. The sign there, the Southern Pacific sign, is actually based on one we have on the wall that was on the engine house in Oakland. And when they tore the engine house down, we actually got the sign. So we actually got it on the wall outside of our club. So I actually took that and took the colors off of it and reproduced it into a fairly accurate sign. So go ahead and jump to the next one. And so you can kind of see that, everything's been pretty well weathered and the brick's been done pretty nice. Looks pretty reasonable. Need a little bit of leveling of the ground there on the bottom. So I got the last 2 slides. This is kind of how this is built, because it's going to be in a club where it gets moved and could potentially get damaged. The other thing was really pretty flimsy. So jump to the next one, Chris.
Sure.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I thought this is actually 2 views of where it is. So if you see on the view on the left, that's kind of as you walk in, and you kind of can see it there, and it's kind of, you can kind of see it peeking up above the buildings there, kind of in the left of center in that picture. And then when you come over to the right, you actually can see it a lot more on that end. Then you've got a city behind. Kind of the whole idea here is you have the kind of gritty industrial city down in part of town, down in front with the railroad, and the shining city on the hill up in the background. So jump to the next slide. So the problem with this thing was when you glued it together, turned out those walls were just about as floppy as anything I'd ever seen. So I decided I had to put in some strengthening, and wanted at the bottom to throw away their foundation, put in a new foundation and strengthen it. So I came to the conclusion the right way to do that was with acrylic. So in the upper left, what that is that's 16th inch acrylic being glued in on the top and bottom of each wall, just done with epoxy. Mix some epoxy and squinch on it. What that does is levels up to those little plasters that are in between the walls, which actually came back in a little bit. And so now on the top, it actually has a wooden frame. So instead of using the plastic and gluing it together with glue, it's all done with liquid nails, and those are all liquid nailed in. So you have a support in the center for the roof and the side pieces. You got the 2 side roofs supported down below. And then if you kind of look at the 2 lower left pictures and kind of the upper right one there, the far upper right one, those are gusseted. Where you see that blue tape, that was actually tape, so it was painted, it would still be clear, so you wouldn't see it, and those are gusseted. And the intermediate wood pieces were put in place to put LEDs, because the whole thing is set up with LEDs inside. At the bottom left, you kind of see how it was extended with that acrylic to provide an acrylic lip that then you could glue that block to give the trim at the bottom of the wall. And so you jump to the next picture, which is just kind of a little bit of the interior finishing. And that was kind of, how it was put together with the LED lighting in it, and then putting the roof sections on, and kind of not putting it together the way they kind of suggested to do it as a plastic model, but kind of building on a much stronger framework. Anyway, that's it, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, it came out very, very nice.
Really good.
All right. All right. Thanks, Phil. Does anybody have any questions for Phil before we move on?
You're turning into Tom there, Phil. You got that plywood in there.
All righty. Well, thanks, Phil. Next up, we have Bernd Fanghanel.
Very
Sorry.
good. That's okay.
I butchered it. I'm sorry. I'll get it.
Keep practicing.
All right, we'll do. All right. Looks like you've got 12 slides tonight.
Well, okay. I started a diorama back about 25 years ago when I lived in a mobile home. And you see the 2 kits, I built the Alexander Coaling Station and the Timberline Models water tank number 142. That was some first kits I ever start putting together. So, okay, on to the next one. This is what the diorama looks like. You got a 3/4 view here. You see the cooling tower, which isn't finished. There's the water tank, the maintenance shed there, and the sand house are actually Campbell scale. I scratch built those. I didn't use the kit. Same for the sand storage box and the 2 sand towers. On the left side is HON3, which actually is going to use to fill up the tower. And on the right-hand side, I don't think you can see it too well. It's dual gauge, both standard and HON3. The one of those flat cars is scratch built. The 2 log cars are kit built. Now I don't know what the other flat car is. So okay, on to the next one. You get a closer view here of the water tower, or the square water tank. I don't know, it kind of grew on me. I've never heard of a square water tank, but I guess they're pretty popular. And then the little storage shed there, and then the picture down on the right is the beginning of a sand drying house. So all right, on to the next one. This, excuse me, this building figure has been traveling around at least over 25 years. And the only thing I broke on it was the corner up there on the left picture of the what do they call that up there? The where it goes around the corner. I broke that.
Yeah, like your landing.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks. And I repaired it there, and then I started to build the hoist house. That's where the mechanism is to winch up the buckets of coal. All right, on to the next one. I use my computer CAD program to come up with the correct angles to put on the rafters for the little shed. I drew it up and then printed it out and followed the lines to cut the rafters at the right angles. Okay, next one. Now here I am gluing it on. And on to the next one. There's a better picture. So you see on the right there, that right picture, they comes out looking pretty good. I was never too good at cutting angles on things like that. So I still haven't put the windows in. So, but okay, on to the next one. The thing had up in the top left picture, it had pulleys for the coal chute. I lost one of the pulleys, so what am I going to do? Well, I got my little lathe out, and away I went and made pulleys about the same size, but I couldn't quite come up with the slats in there like that. So I drilled holes in it. And the other 3 pictures, is it? Yeah, 3 pictures. Those are for the coal chute. Again, I use my CAD program, printed it out, cut out the paper, sprayed it with adhesive, and glued it onto, I think it was 10,000 stick brass. All right, next one. And this is what the coal chute looks like. And on the right there, well, I didn't do too good of a soldering job on the top left one there. A little file work took care of that. And then I'm trying it out to make sure it fit in there proper like. Next one. Then I added this is what actually that's a piece of phosphor bronze. This is what actually you would pull on a string, it would pull that up so the coal would come out. And there it is again, trying it out to make sure it looks okay. Okay, next one, Chris. And here it is with the pulleys mounted. And then it's got an extra chute on there. It's an extension chute, so it'll shoot the coal into the center of the tender, and the little beads are laying down to the right there, which would get put on over the pulleys to help lift up the weight of the chute there. Next one. And this is where it's setting. It's become a horizontal storage place for anything that has wheels on it. And I haven't touched it in, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years, but I thought it'd be something good to show anyway. So that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, it looks great. You're talking about the square water tanks. I think it's the Quincy and Torch Lake.
Yeah.
There's a kid out there that's how I came across it. But I think originally, and actually I think somebody else, because I have a Best kit that's that way also. They use them or they use them to, particularly in the Northeast, to heat water
Right.
so that it wouldn't freeze in the
Yeah.
wintertime.
Yeah. Okay. Questions?
Hey, Bernd, I have
yeah.
a question.
Yeah.
For making the chute, you designed it with your CAD, then you glued the paper onto the brass. How did you then cut out the brass?
Being it's only 10 thousandths thick, I used a pair of regular scissors, Fiskars scissors. They're very good for cutting something like that out.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Nice job.
Thank you. The paint on that is the old Floquil paint that I did on the buildings. And same with the weathering. That was the first time I ever did any weathering. It's just basically using Floquil, which now I have to learn how to use new paints.
Hey, Bud,
Yes.
is that a Marion steam shovel in front of the cooling tower?
No. Are you talking about this last picture?
Yeah,
Who? What did you say it was?
a Marion steam shovel.
No. The let's start on the right there. That's an MDC kit, narrow gauge, 3 foot. Then that's a standard gauge flat car behind it.
That's
That was-
what I was looking at was what's on the flat car. And it looks like a
Oh,
steam
yeah.
shovel.
No, that's a standard gauge. That was there was a magazine that had that, how to build that. And I think it was a model railroader many years ago. And the boxcar on top is actually an HON3 boxcar that I never finished. See, I sort of get, I see shiny things and I follow those things and forget about what I was doing. So.
I know the feeling.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Any more questions for Bernd? Alrighty, well, thank you, Bernd.
You're
And
welcome.
next, we will move on to Jeff Jordan. Yep, Jeff.
I'm here.
Alrighty, looks like you've got 8 slides tonight.
Okay. I'm following up from last week's discussion about interesting plastic kits that with a little bit of effort and alteration make really nice models, even though they start as very simplistic plastic kits. Here's the first one. This started life as Plasticville. I think today Bachman still sells it. And was my original effort at a coaling tower for my narrow gauge railroad. I subsequently replaced it with the advanced junction coaling unit when I found that. But this was shortened, and every piece of the wood, even though it's plastic, has been textured with the razor saw to put wood grain into the timbers on the bin. And then the top replaced the original Plasticville top with a kit from Mount Blue Hobbies, made a replacement top specifically for this structure, and blends in very nicely. And then there's several other details here. The stairway has been altered to move it into a more credible location than the original kit, which put it way out at the end, too close to the train. The coaling mechanism has been entirely reworked. It came with a very weak chute. And so I scratch built that chute out of evergreen styrene, added the braces, and then the door mechanism is a gem of a little detail set from Grantline. There's like a dozen parts in there with all the wheels, shafts, chains, etc., that really add a lot of detail. to that assembly. And why don't we go to the next slide, please? The other thing that you can see on here is coaling towers, of course, frequently are used at night as well as during the day. And so I decided it needed some lighting. And so you can see the lamps both over the area where you activate the coal chute and up above the top of the stairs. There you go. You can see more closely there on the left. And as long as I was adding the lamp, I added electrical conduit. So you can see that from that lamp, the conduit actually goes around the side of the building and around the back. And then the photo on the right just gives you a nice close look at the Mount Blue top. And you can see that it's been pretty heavily weathered. Any coaling tower is a pretty dirty place, so lots of coal dust. And so this is liberally coated with coal dust using Bragdon weathering chalks, which adhere very nicely. And so you don't have to seal it on top, and it gives it a nice gritty look. Next slide, please. You see, we got any more of the coaling tower?
Yeah, that's what that.
Okay, I'm wait. For some reason, my system is running very slowly tonight. There we go. Okay, so
Okay.
there you go. Now you can see on the right-hand side the lamps both over the area that where the chain is to activate the hatch, and then the lamp over the top of the stairs. And if you look closely, you can see the electrical conduit runs all the way around horizontally there as well. Next slide. Again, the latency is really slow tonight. There we go. Okay. On the right, there's a nice close-up, a little bit out of focus, but showing those Grant Line parts. That was an evening's work to assemble all of that. There, like I said, there's like a dozen parts in that little assembly, including the two chains, the wheels, the gears, the shafts, the brackets, and so forth, and the door down at the bottom, all out of the Grant Line set, and really adds, sets off the detail. The kit came with like a flat sheet and a little rod that was supposed to lever it up and down. Much more credible arrangement there. Next slide. And waiting for, there we go. Okay, this is the other kit I think I mentioned last week. This is the Lionel Rico Depot. And again, it's a very faithful model of the original structure, not to be overlooked. If I was building this today, this is probably the oldest structure on my layout. I would have distressed the plastic a bit more, but it is painted in appropriate Rio Grande Southern colors. And the kit portrays the structure early in its life when it had lots of gingerbread in the eaves and on the roof ridges. And there was a tower on the top of that gable, which apparently back in the day, telegraph lines came into that tower and down into the agent's office. And in 1934, the building had a fire, the tower was destroyed and never replaced. And so this is intentionally meant to look like post-1934. And so using the roof for the tower, I was able to fabricate a nice roof patch that fills in where the tower would have been. And then in front of the agent's bay window there, another, I think that's a Grant Line part, the order board, which was typical Rio Grande operating procedure, that if there were orders, they would display the red and the train had to stop and the crew had to receive their orders. If the board was white, they could run through, but I'm told that it was virtually always set at red. And then what else? You can see that I've added draperies in the agent's dwelling quarters upstairs. His wife is, spruced up the place a bit. And then downstairs, there are window shades as well. And then there's some people out front. Those are Woodland Scenics figures. The bench is temporary until I get something a little nicer in there. Right now, it's just a couple little bits of balsa but gives you a bench out front. Next slide. I think is another photo of the depot, which is in my imaginary town of Uncompahgre. The Rio Grande Southern terminates up around Ridgeway, which is in Uncompahgre County, but there was no Uncompahgre. But I like the name. It means apparently in Ute Indian muddy waters. And so, but that is the Rico Depot from Lionel, completely reworked, every square inch of it painted, weathered. The roof has been dirtied up considerably, the siding a little bit dirtied up. Again, I could have gone further with the texturing of the wood, but Rio Grande structure ready to go right out of the Lionel box. I think that's what I got for you tonight.
A couple more.
Oh, okay.
So showing the details there.
Yep.
Of the
Yep.
front.
There, you can see the details in the windows. You can see the order board. And though you really can't see it in the photograph, the agent's office inside the bay window is all detailed as well. There's a desk in the bay window. I built out the walls out of evergreen styrene, and there's calendars and so forth up on the walls. And there's actually a light, though it was not on when I took this photo. But that was the most obvious interior part. And when you turn on the light, you can see the agent's office with the telephone on the desk, papers on the desk, and a bulletin board on the wall, and so forth.
Yeah, it looks like you can see the telephone in the bottom left pane.
Yep. Yeah, in the bottom left pane, there is a candlestick phone there. And then what you're seeing through the window, though it's only dimly lit, is the back wall, which has got wainscoting. So it's dark in the bottom and light on the top.
Alrighty. Yep, and here's our last photo.
I've got a question. Did you add the additional windows on the second floor?
All the windows are straight out of the kit. The only thing I did was add the window treatments, the draperies or the lace curtains, which actually are thinned white paint painted on the plastic on the inside, and the window shades, which are the typical construction paper window shades.
Okay. Thank you.
But this kit is straight out of the box, with the exception that I deleted the tower and patched the roof, added the order board, and deleted all the gingerbread, which actually was harder than you might think, because the gingerbread actually filled the gap down the center of the ridge of the roof. So rather than just throw it away, I had to flip it upside down and then glue it in to the roof so that the ridge on the top of the roof closes. But it worked quite effectively. But at the time when I realized that I couldn't just pitch the gingerbread, that I had to figure out how to fill the hole in the roof, and flipping it upside down actually worked quite effectively.
Yes.
Alrighty. Any more questions for Jeff? Alrighty. Well, thanks for sharing, Jeff, and look forward to seeing hopefully what you can come up with for next month.
Yep,
All right,
I've got an oddball for you already waiting.
Okay, cool. Can't wait. All right. Next up, we've got Mitch Doc Lovelace. You up, Mitch?
I'm here.
All right. Looks like you've got 5 slides tonight.
All right. So I think it was not last week, but the week before last, Rich had spoke to me about the potential of paper buildings and cardstock buildings, which is something that I had done. As you see here, I built these. These are in no particular order either, but I did these, I would say, about 2 years ago, and they just sat dormant for about a year until about this time last year, when I decided to get like really back into the hobby. And he also introduced me to Paul, who's on here, and he's been gracious enough to take some time out as soon as I get done moving to kind of do some video build alongs with me and show me his process of how he does it. Because when I mean, with working with N-Scale, there's a lot you can get away with making things out of paper, cardboard, cardstock, anything like that, as long as you can find the way to either make the detail or mimic the detail and the relief in the buildings. And this particular building is just part of a structure. This was the top 5 stories of a giant school building that I had made. The whole facade is nothing but a Budweiser box that was left over from my work. And I literally went in there and cut out each window by hand with a number 11 X-Acto blade. And then cut tiny, tiny strips of cardboard as the, what do you call the window panes running across. And then on the outside facade, the gray running underneath the window is balsa. And you can just scroll along. So this was the bottom here of that structure, and I built this in 3 separate parts. In the previous picture, I built in 1 part. And then I kind of put one of those, I don't know, one of those cheap dollar store lights on the inside after I put the window glazing on, just to see what it looked like backlit. And say again, this is N-Scale, so cutting out those windows was not easy at all. So all the gray that you see, all the gray facade treatments, that's all balsa. Various sizes and thicknesses. It's kind of safe to say this was never truly finished. But I wanted to share this just because of, you know, Rich and Paul, how they've gotten me back into the potential and the possibility of making paper buildings, and kind of to show you guys, you know, what set that spark back in my my dream of this hobby. So you can go to the next one. So here is let me see. These are basically the same, just kind of in different orders. The most difficult one of these that I built was I guess in this one it'd be the tallest one, that has the 3 rows of bay windows, basically going from top to bottom. I had no idea how difficult it would be to make bay windows on a paper model. I really didn't. The bay windows alone here probably took me 3 to 4 times as long as any other building you see built to completion. I worked with, maybe if I make it, you know, 3 windows wide and put the 45-degree bins in it, maybe that would work. It turns out it doesn't, at least in what I was doing. So I had to literally cut 3 strips straight down, cut out all the windows, and then glue those pieces together perfectly to create the bay window effect.
Oh, wow.
And this was also back before I knew anything about weathering at all. So all I used on these were acrylic paints. So you can kind of tell by the rudimentary weathering there. And let's see if there's anything on here left to speak about, really. Well, I mean, you can see on the bottom picture there on the bottom right, that's all the products I used to build these. You know, 3 or 4.
Also gives a good example of your scale too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, one thing I can say, it might show up in another picture here in a second, but the staircases leading up to those walk-ups there, the first time that I made one of those, I literally just took a piece of paper and made tiny, 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 tiny folds, probably about 30 times until I acquired the height of the staircase. Until I realized that it's much easier and also looks much better to just cut tiny strips of balsa wood and stack them on top of each other. And it saved a lot of time when I figured that little trick out. But all right, you can go to the next one. All right, so the one on the left here it's one that I like, but in my opinion, it's one that had the least amount of detail on the facade. It's basically just a box with windows cut out. But I was trying different techniques at the time. Well, I mean, I still don't know a whole lot about interior lighting or lighting for that matter, but I was trying different things with cardboard going behind the glass. So I was saying, well, if I have a light colored cardboard and a dark colored cardboard, but I put the exact same light behind it, will it look like one light is out and one light is on in the window? As opposed to having, 40 different lights in the building. Can I play around with something? Can I, create a shortcut? Well, I quickly realized that that's not the case. So as you can see, the bottom looks like it is lit up like a nuclear bomb went off, and the upper floors are just still pretty much blacked out. And on the right is one building that sadly I never got to finish, but I had really high hopes for. I created each one of those little bitty balconies, which I would say each balcony is smaller in width than a quarter.
Whoa.
And I
Corner in the lower
created
right corner.
each. Oh yeah, at least. And I cut each one of those out, glued them in, cut all the windows out, and then came home from work one day and my cat had basically just made it its new home, or what was left of it. So never got to finish that one, but there might be a couple more slides I can share. And sorry, I'm kind of shivering a little bit, but I'm outside right now. We had a warm front come through Memphis today. It's only 30 degrees. I woke up this morning, it was 5 degrees, and now I'm walking outside, it's 30. I said, I'll walk outside a little bit. All right, so here's another picture, just a different angle of that one on the left, and you can kind of see where I was going. I wanted, all that bottom part right there that's arched, I wanted that to be all encased in glass, or styrene, basically. But and you can see kind of the depth of it that I had and where I was going with it. I really wish I could have been able to finish that one. Because I mean, come on, when something costs basically, I don't know, $2 or $3 in product, it's fun. And then on the right, this is just showing all of them kind of together. You can see the scale of that big one that I was talking about, the school building, compared to the others. I mean, it really was kind of massive. And then I don't think maybe you had seen the one on the right picture on the very bottom right. That was the first time that I had worked with using balsa for the staircase, and it's kind of hard to tell by this picture, but it worked so much better and looked so much more realistic. And I don't know if there's any more, but
That's it. You're on the last slide.
all right. Well, yeah, basically just from those guys kind of letting me know that paper models are still very relevant, and I'm looking forward to the things they're gonna show and teach me. I thought it would be fitting to go back in time a little bit and show you guys kind of what jump started my interest back in the hobby. So
Yeah, that's neat. It's you set yourself up with a learning curve and you didn't spend a whole lot of money on it. And that's the best part of it is like the one that the cat destroyed. It's like the only thing it really cost you was time. So now you've got
I
that
gained a lot of
experience level. Now you can rebuild it back better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to sound
Exactly.
political or anything, but
No, you're absolutely right. But yeah. So I mean, I'm not gonna say that every model that I'm gonna build is gonna be paper cardstock. It's absolutely not. But it's just good to know that the potential and the possibility is out there. If there's something that you just want to build that you just can't find the plastic parts for, you can't find a craftsman kit, you just don't know how to kind of pull it off. These possibilities are out there, and they're absolutely like limitless, to be honest, if you know the proper procedure.
yeah, these are definitely it's something that can be used for learning tools. That's for sure, especially when they're that small. Are there
Yeah, I
any
just
questions
had
for
a-
Doc?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
Yeah,
just-
Doc,
Go ahead.
do you brace the inside of your paper buildings?
When I do it with I don't know the exact dimensions, but I think they're 1/8 inch balsa kind of squares that they're long. I do that. I'll brace that, and then I'll run a 45 on the angles. But really, I've only found that I need to do that on really the bigger structures. I'm not getting a whole lot of warping just because the way that I paint them before I put them together, so I do weight them down as the paint dries. So that does help a lot with the warping.
what kind of, I mean, you say paper, what kind is it? Like, is it cardboard? Is it Strathmore board?
Well,
What
yeah,
kind of stuff do you use?
paper might be a little bit of a jump. This was actually, like I said, I work at a bar and a restaurant, and I think that all of these, except for maybe the small red one was actually a Crown Royal box. And I believe that all the other ones were Budweiser, Bud Light boxes.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little bit thicker than maybe your typical cereal box. It's got a little bit more rigidity to it, but
Okay.
not a lot. But yeah. But it wouldn't have mattered either way. I mean, you can use a cereal box the exact same. The only thing is that it does, it will go through a X-Acto knife before you know it. So, got to have plenty of blades when you're cutting out 50 windows.
That's what you call true recycling.
Yeah. Speaking of that, actually, a guy just picked up all of these. I posted this also on a Facebook group, and a guy that's building a Chicago scene said he's interested in all of them. So I put them in a box and sent them to him for free in Kentucky. So hopefully I'll get some pictures of how he repurposes them and uses them, and I'll be able to share that with you guys.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be great.
Alrighty, any more questions for Mitch? All right, well, thanks for sharing, Mitch.
Always.
All right, next up we've got Ed O'Rourke. Are you up, Ed?
Yes, I am.
Alrighty, looks like you got 5 slides tonight.
Okay. All right, so we got this one first. This is our division's demonstration switching layout, which was in Model Railroader. The picture that you see above it is the picture they used in Model Railroader. It's designed by a guy who lives out in Herkimer from here. And we take this to train shows and let the kids play with it, let them switch. And when I somewhere in one of my HO things, I'll go into a little more about how we built it, but it's a real magnet for kids and adults too. We have an NCE DCC system, power cab attached to it that we run it with. And you get people who want to come try that out and see how it works. It's been a big hit, and we'll talk about that in one of my HO sections later. This was at our train show in November. Next slide.
Yeah, what was the what's that club name? I'll put
Say
that
what?
in here. What's the name of your club?
Or the Central New York Division of the Northeastern Region of the National Model Railroad Association.
Okay, I'm trying to take that in, sorry.
It's just like it says up there, Central New York Division of the NMRA.
Okay, all
Northeastern
right,
Region.
cool. That way we can give a little bit of credit in the news article or in the article.
All right. So this model was given to my friend Jim Height, who passed away this spring. And one of the old time guys on his layout, because he had a every Tuesday night session that went on for 20 some years to build the Ogdensburg and Norwood Railroad. Had built this for him and gave it to him. It was on a sheet of plywood. It was never installed on his layout. So I really liked it, and I was going to try and figure out a way to install it on the layout. I kind of had to deconstruct it to get it off the mounting that it was on. I believe it's a laser cut kit of some kind or another, but who made it or whatever is lost in the sands of time. And there was the guy who built it had a write-up about it when he gave it to Jim. I think he left town or, retired someplace. The pieces that you see there on the bottom are plaster cast rock that were the foundation that we took it off the foundation and had to break those off the plywood. Go to the next slide. Yeah, that's the underside of it. The sheet that you see to the left there is what it was mounted on originally. And I'm starting to put the rock work back together. The trouble was when we took it apart, we didn't number it. So it was like a puzzle. I had to take it and kind of figure out which one went where to get it to go back together. Next slide. And it was pretty beat up. It had sat around and gotten pretty beat up. So I put it back together. I weathered it some more. In particular, the roof because I didn't like they just put the paper shingles on it, but didn't do anything else with it. So that was the main thing. The next slide is just the back side of it. It's quite an intricate kit that somebody put a lot of time into, and it was interesting to put it back together. I had to rebuild some of the wood parts, particularly because they'd gotten busted up. So I'm going to find a place on my layout for it since Jim's layout is gone. I wondered if anybody had any knowledge about this thing, if anybody knew what the kit was. I've no idea, but it's obviously was laser cut because you can tell when you look at the inside, you can see that the wood is cut out that way.
Yeah, it looks like it's got some Campbell's windows in it, but that's just
yeah. I don't think it's a Campbell kit though. It's too too much for that. Yeah, unless he took a bunch of stuff and put it together. I don't know. So anyway, that's I think that's it. And there, yeah.
Yes, that's the last slide.
So I'm going to find in the layout that I am now building, I'm going to find some place to put it so that I can remember my friend Jim.
That is a really neat structure.
It is. Yeah.
I've never seen a kit like that before. I really haven't. It's got so much detail on it.
Yeah. And I don't know if maybe the guy who built it modified some of that. I really don't know. The original work of it is lost to the
Yeah,
ether somewhere, you know?
he did a nice job.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
there's another side of it, yeah.
Kind of wondering if
State-
maybe that's, well, no, I was gonna say, I wonder if it's a bunch of kits that got bashed together, but
Doesn't
looking at
look like
the,
it though. I mean, that obviously was the way that was supposed to go.
yeah, looking at this one, you can see the laser cut in there.
Yeah, yeah, you know, there's no doubt about the fact that it's not scratch built, it was laser
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, thanks for sharing, Ed. Does anybody have any questions for Ed? Or
It's
any-
not a question, but Ed, if you're on Facebook,
Yeah,
putting up a picture like this and then a picture of the underside in the Craftsman Courtyard, I'll bet somebody would be able to ID that kit.
that's probably true. I bet somebody could do that. I'll work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good thought. Thank you. Yeah.
That thing looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Any questions for Ed? Alrighty. Well, thanks, Ed. Hopefully you can come up with something for the oddities next month. Next up is Pat. You up, Pat?
I'm up.
Ah, there you are. All right. Looks like you've got 6 slides.
This is supposed to be a completed building that was sent to me by New Creation. It
Uh-oh.
got to the border and was totally tore apart, and that's the way I got it. They must have thought there was some strange substance in there.
Hmm.
But anyway, I hope you got some of the finished pictures anyway. Yeah, here's the front. Now you know what it is the church. There's the inside at the front. And this is all rosin casting.
Oh,
And then this was a cardboard that was placed on the inside. It was a mess. I didn't even know what it was when I first got it until I looked at the windows of the church, and I said, okay, what did it look like? So I got a hold of Al, and he sent me some photos of this is the exact replica of a church in California where he's at.
Yeah.
Hope you got some more there, Chris.
Yep.
There you are. There it is put together. There's the front entrance. There's the inside. I completely detailed the interior. I asked Al what it looked like inside, and he said it still had stud walls on the inside. It wasn't finished. So I thought, well, I might as well add stud walls to the inside. I took all of the stained glass and cut it off the existing cardboard and placed it inside of the window where it should be. Then I put pews along each side, and I had some figures that fitted in pretty good. So I sat some figures in there, and some of them were standing, entering the church. And there's some greeters at the front of the church, or the back of the church, you might say, the entrance. And then I put the pulpit on the one side and the some statues on either side. They were all in that mess that came in a bag. I had no idea how it went together, but I thought, well, I'll give it a tackle. So I did. So I added lights. I added the interior. I actually added some candle posts here on each side of the altar, and then pews on each side for the altar boys.
Mhm.
I don't know if you got any more pictures or not.
Yep. Yeah, there's a few more.
There
Yeah.
it is. There's the finished product. I put a bell on the steeple.
Yep.
Yeah, it was quite a challenge because there was no idea what it looked like. I had no plans, no nothing. Al sent me some pictures, and that's what I went by.
I remember
actually
you
have
guys
more.
talking about that a few months ago.
Yeah, it was. It was a challenge.
Well, you did a nice job. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yep, looks very nice. I think there's a few more. Yep, this is the
Yeah,
last
the
one.
side picture, yeah. I actually weathered it too, and when it first had white corners on it, I took them off and beveled the corners and put it all back together again. Actually, it changed the perspective of the length of the church. And the roof I weathered a little bit. I weathered under the windows. I scraped the windows a little bit so they looked like they were as old as it was supposed to be.
Hmm.
I guess that church is quite old, and it's been there quite some time. And they're still using it, by the way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Alrighty. Well,
Thanks.
thanks for sharing, Pat. Are there any questions for Pat?
Pat, it's
Big
not a
job,
question, but it doesn't just happen crossing the border. A guy I know ran a company called Medford Trains out of Florida. He would always bring his kits up to the Timonium show in Maryland to sell, and he would ship up his built demonstration models. He had built a roundhouse kit of the Hagerstown Roundhouse, and when it got to the Baltimore post office, it was smashed completely flat, completely unusable.
Huh, that's awful.
Yeah.
You know, like they actually tried to wrap it up again and put it in plastic bags, all the pieces they found. And it was full of popcorn when I got it. So when I took and opened the box, the popcorn started falling out and all these pieces started coming out.
Oh
And I
my
said,
God.
what is this?
Must have
Poor
been
Al.
must have been heart struck.
Wow, it was
Oh.
terrible anyway. We got her back together anyway.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty, any more questions for Pat? All right, well, thanks for sharing, Pat, and nice job on that.
Thank you.
And then it looks like last for the night, we have Gary Shergold. You up, Gary?
I'm here.
Alrighty, looks like you've got 3 slides tonight.
Yeah, well, thanks. This is a HO scale, ITLA scale models, 2-story brick utility building. And when the building came, it's like the 4 walls are like a biscuit that fits together. And when I had followed the instructions in the kit, which was to sand the ends of the walls prior to fitting, I fitted them together and they just did not look proper. So what I'd done, I'd taken some strip wood and on each of the corners, I ran strip wood down to hide that connecting joint. Trimmed out the roof area and made it look like it was all done in the outside brace. Everything was all done in concrete. Did some initial basic painting on the brick, and then with pastels went over it with different colors, little red, orange, and then started to blend everything in together. The little walkway that goes up is highly detailed. It's supposed to represent a metal stairway, and the treads are fantastic. Like you can see right through them. Same with the ladder on the back. It's highly detailed, put it on. And as you can see right next to the chimney on the roof is the vent for the plumbing inside. And also on the front of the building, I put a electrical junction box, which goes up to the top, and then wires would run from there over to a telephone pole. Signs on the front doors, and the bottom part would house some type of an electrical controlling system for the railroad. And I believe there's another set of slides.
Yeah, there should be this one, and then I think one more set after it.
Yeah, this shows the front again with the other wall showing. Added the windows, and I put a angle block on the building so that when you look through the windows, you don't see right through. Same with the signs were added, and I have since added to the front a CN sign, which is basically a little lower in that middle large section on the front of the building. Added a little bench on the one side with a newspaper sitting there, and underneath the upper stairway, put in a trash can, a little broom. Someone threw a newspaper on the ground, and there's a shovel there to clean up the mess that has been left behind. added a piece of plaster strut or a piece of plastic on the bottom, and then scribed in the walkway, sidewalk, and then attempted to show a couple of cracks. I'm not too happy with the weathering on the sidewalk, so I think what I'm going to do is, once it's placed, go over it with a dark wash and just make it a little more dirtier what it is. The railing and stairwell going up, it was painted a metallic color and then weathered with a weathering wash to give it that slightly rusted look. But it's
Yeah,
a nice little kit.
Yeah, the brick came out really nice.
Yeah.
Well, your details really set it off, Gary.
Yeah, I think there's one more. Yep, here we go.
Yeah, that just is another shot, three-quarter shot of the backside, showing the ladder system going up. And it was done the same as the stairwell, painted that metallic color, and then given a wash, light wash of rust. So you just get that little brownish tint here and there. The smokestack or the chimney, it's kind of nice when the kit came, that little piece on the top actually pulled out of the concrete cap. And then what you did is glued it back in, and then it was painted a little bit of an orangey color and then weathered with some black chalks. The roof itself was done with that sewing material. I made it into instead of a sand top roof, I made it into a tar paper roof. And it was distressed with different pastels, just to give a little bit of old used look and texturing.
Whose kit was it, Gary?
It's a ITLA scale models.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, you had them on the show here about
Yep.
sometime last year.
Yep, they did
Yeah.
some nice.
Yeah, he'll be on next month. He sent me a bunch of oddities that are really he really took the spirit of what the oddity show was about. So
Yeah, very good.
yeah. All right. Well,
Was
thanks,
it-
Gary.
Yeah, it was a fun build.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looks like one of those things that's like you could either put it together and just kind of go ho hum, or you could go whole hog with it and really have a good time with it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it.
Yep.
Yeah. Are there any questions for Gary?
Gary, did you say you put a CN sign on the front for Canadian National?
Yes.
So wouldn't that shovel be for shoveling snow?
Yes. And right
Okay.
now it would come in handy.
Oh, I couldn't resist.
No problem.
Alrighty. Any more questions for Gary?
Nice job, Gary.
Yeah, very nice. Well, thanks, Gary. I know I've seen some of your oddities before, and hopefully you can you got some good stuff in mind for next month.
I got
So
a
with
good
that-
one. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Gary. And all right, that concludes our actually that portion. You know what? I forgot one thing. All right, next month, like I've been talking about all show, the next month is going to be a challenge. The February challenge is oddities. Show us the whatever weird things you've got: aliens, UFO dealerships, steampunk, jackalopes, non-prototypical trains, depressed center flat cars, whatever you can fit into that mix. That'll be February 21st. And please have your photos to me by, I believe it's the 19th, if you could. That would be greatly appreciated. Email your photos to me at railrunner130@hotmail.com. And if you have not participated previously, please send us a photo of yourself so that we can include that in your intro slide. And that's it. So I will turn it back over to you, Jim.